Maybe you've been carrying something you can't put into words. Not something you could explain to anyone, not something that shows on your face, just a weight, a quiet, invisible weight that follows you from the moment you open your eyes in the morning to the moment you finally close them at night, if you can close them at all. You smile, you show up, you answer messages, you take care of things, and from the outside, everything looks fine. But inside, something hasn't been quiet in a very long time. There's a part of you that is exhausted in a way that sleep doesn't fix. A part of you that wakes up already bracing for the day, already running through everything that could go wrong, already carrying tomorrow's weight before today has even begun. If that's you, this message is for you. Not because I have a formula, not because there are 5 easy steps waiting at the end of this, but because there is something God wants you to hear today. Something He has been waiting to say to the part of you that is tired of pretending everything is okay. Stay with me. There is a kind of exhaustion that doesn't show up on any test, that doesn't appear in your eyes when you look in the mirror, that doesn't announce itself to the people sitting next to you at the table. It just lives inside you, quietly and constantly, like a machine that was never given an off switch. You know what it feels like to be surrounded by people and still feel completely alone inside your own mind. You know what it's like to lie down at night and feel your thoughts accelerate instead of slow. The room goes dark, the house goes quiet, and that's exactly when the noise starts. What if things fall apart? What if I lose someone I love? What if I can't hold this together much longer? And the cruelest part is that you can't always trace it back to one specific thing. Sometimes there is no obvious reason. The fear is just there. The tightness in your chest is just there. The sense that something is about to go wrong without any evidence, without any warning, is just there. That is not weakness. That is not a lack of faith. That is what it feels like when the mind has been running at full capacity for too long without rest, and it is more common than you know. Some people reading this have been living this way for months, others for years. You've learned to perform normalcy with remarkable precision. You smile at the right moments. You say, "I'm fine," with such convincing ease that even the people closest to you believe it. You take care of everyone else's needs while quietly suffocating inside your own. Because somewhere along the way, you decided that you needed to appear strong, that falling apart wasn't an option, that if people saw the real weight you were carrying, they would think less of you. So you carried it alone. And carrying it alone is the part that breaks people the most. There's something particular about the way this kind of inner noise works. It doesn't stay still. It moves. It grows. It starts as a single worry, and slowly it multiplies. A concern about the future becomes a conviction that the future will be terrible. A moment of failure becomes proof that failure is all you are capable of. A single bad night becomes the belief that peace is something other people get to feel, but not you. The mind caught in this cycle is like a courtroom where the verdict has already been decided before the evidence is even presented. You walk in already condemned, and every thought that enters gets twisted into confirmation of the worst possible outcome. You're going to lose this. You're not going to make it. Everyone will eventually leave. You are one mistake away from everything collapsing. And then, and this is perhaps the most painful part, the exhaustion starts bleeding into your spiritual life too. Prayer becomes difficult, not because you stopped believing, but because you're so tired that even forming the words feels like lifting something heavy. You open your Bible and the words blur together. You sit in silence trying to reach God, and all you feel is the same hollow echo you've been living with all week. And then comes the guilt, the quiet, crushing guilt of thinking, if I just had more faith, this wouldn't be happening. If I were stronger spiritually, I wouldn't feel this way. Maybe God is distant because I haven't done enough. Maybe I don't deserve the peace everyone else seems to have. That guilt adds another layer to the weight, and the weight becomes almost unbearable. Here is what I want you to hear before we go any further. The fact that you are struggling does not mean God has forgotten you. The fact that your mind won't quiet down does not mean your prayers aren't reaching heaven. The fact that you are exhausted does not disqualify you from being loved, held, and seen by the God who made you. You were never meant to carry this alone, not any of it. And in the middle of all of this, God hasn't moved. Which brings us to the question that changes everything. What does God actually say to someone who is this tired? You are not the first person to feel this way, and that might sound simple, but I want you to sit with it for a moment because it matters more than it seems. Elijah was one of the most powerful prophets who ever lived. He called fire down from heaven. He stood alone against hundreds of false prophets and did not flinch. And yet, after all of that, there came a day when he sat down under a tree completely broken and asked God to let him die. Not because he was faithless, but because he was exhausted, because the weight had finally become too much for one person to carry. David, the man God himself called a man after his own heart, wrote psalms soaked in despair. My God, why have you forsaken me?" That wasn't a theological statement. That was a human being at the edge of himself, crying out into what felt like silence. And Peter, the one who walked on water, sank, not because the miracle wasn't real, but because the storm was loud, the waves were high, and for one moment, fear became bigger than faith. These were not small men. These were not spiritually immature people. These were people chosen by God, and every single one of them reached a point where their strength ran out completely. Which means your breaking point is not a sign that God has abandoned you. It is not evidence that you have failed. It may be the exact place where God does his most important work. Because here is what I have come to understand about the way God moves. He is not surprised by what you are facing. He was not caught off guard by the night you couldn't stop crying. He was not absent when the fear rose up at 3 a.m. and you had no words left to pray. He has seen every moment of this, every sleepless hour, every forced smile, every time you held it together on the outside while quietly falling apart on the inside. And he hasn't left. He isn't waiting for you to get stronger before he comes close. He isn't standing at a distance until you've figured out how to have more faith. He is here right now, in the middle of the exhaustion, in the middle of the noise you've been carrying alone. And what he says to you today is not a lecture. It is not a list of things you need to do better. It is an invitation. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. That is Matthew 11:28 and 29. Not rest as a reward for finally getting it right, rest as a gift offered freely right now to the version of you that is most tired. That is who God is calling today. Not the version of you that has it together, but the version of you that is sitting here worn out and wondering if peace is even still possible. It is, and it begins here. So let's talk about what that actually looks like, because the answer may surprise you. Picture the scene. It is evening on the Sea of Galilee, and the disciples, fishermen most of them, men who had spent their lives on that water, climb into a boat with Jesus. They've seen him heal the sick, they've watched him speak, and the crowds go silent. They know who he is, and yet the wind picks up, the waves rising, the boat, small against the size of the sea, begins to fill with water, and the disciples, these experienced men, these men of faith, begin to panic. They are bailing water with their hands. They are shouting over the storm. They are doing everything within their human capacity to survive. And Jesus is asleep, not distracted, not distant, asleep with his head on a cushion at the back of the boat in the middle of the worst storm these men had seen in years. "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" Read that question again slowly. Don't you care? Because that is the question underneath every anxious thought you have ever had, isn't it? Not just will this be okay, but does anyone who has the power to change this actually care that I am suffering? The disciples weren't asking about the weather, they were asking about the silence. They were asking why the one who could stop all of this was apparently unbothered while they were terrified. Maybe you've asked the same question. Maybe not out loud, maybe just in the quiet of your own mind in the middle of a night that wouldn't end. God, don't you see this? Don't you care? Here is what happened next. Jesus stood up. He didn't rush.
Your mind is that boat. The anxious thoughts, the ones that accelerate at night, the ones that loop without resolution, the ones that imagine every possible version of disaster before a single thing has actually gone wrong, those are the waves, loud, relentless, exhausting waves. And fear tells you one thing above all else. You are alone in this boat. No one is coming. You have to figure this out yourself or you will drown. But that is not the truth. The truth is that Jesus is already in your boat. He has been there through every sleepless night, through every morning you woke up already exhausted, through every moment you smiled on the outside while the storm raged on in the inside. He was never asleep to your suffering. He was never indifferent to your fear. The silence you felt was not absence. It was the calm of someone who knew the storm did not have the power to destroy what he was holding. And he is still here right now, in the middle of whatever is rising inside you today. The storm may still be loud, but you are not alone in it. And that changes the next question entirely, because if you are not alone, then the weight you've been carrying doesn't have to be carried the same way anymore. Think about what it costs you, physically, emotionally, spiritually, to try to control everything, not just the big things, but the small ones too. The mental list you run through before you sleep, the conversations you replay to check if you said the wrong thing, the decisions you revisit 17 times looking for the one angle you might have missed, the futures you try to predict so that nothing catches you off guard. There is a word for this kind of living. It is not strength, it is not responsibility, it is not even caution. It is an invisible kind of carrying, and it is slowly crushing you. The human mind was not designed to hold everything at once. It was not built to be both the problem and the solution, both the one who suffers and the one who fixes the suffering. When we try to live that way, when we make ourselves solely responsible for managing every uncertainty and every outcome, we don't become more secure, we become more exhausted. And the more exhausted we become, the louder the fear gets. And the louder the fear gets, the harder we grip. And the harder we grip, the less peace we feel. There is a moment I want you to imagine. Someone has been walking for a very long time, miles alone, carrying a bag that started out manageable but has grown heavier with every step until now it is so heavy that their back is bent, their pace has slowed to almost nothing, and every step requires a kind of effort that was never meant to be part of walking. And then someone comes alongside them, doesn't say much, just reaches out and takes the bag. Not to make them feel weak, not to shame them for having carried it this long, simply because the bag was too heavy for one person and there was someone strong enough to carry it who was right there willing the entire time. That is what God is offering you right now. Not a solution delivered on a timeline you control, not the removal of every difficulty before you've had to feel any of it, but the offer to stop carrying alone what was never meant to be carried alone. Cast all your anxieties on Him because He cares for you. That is 1 Peter 5:7.
every anxiety, not the small ones you've deemed acceptable to hand over, not just the ones you've exhausted every human option on, every single one, the ones you're embarrassed by, the ones that feel too trivial to bring to God, the ones you've carried so long you've forgotten there was ever a time you didn't have them, all of them. Surrendering to God is one of the most misunderstood ideas in the spiritual life. People hear it and think it means passivity, giving up, pretending the problems don't exist or that they don't matter. That is not what it means. Surrendering means recognizing the difference between what is yours to carry and what was never yours to carry in the first place. It means stopping the exhausting performance of being your own God, the one who must foresee everything, prevent everything, fix everything, and allowing the actual God to be God. It means saying out loud or in the quiet of your heart, I cannot hold all of this. I was not built to hold all of this, and I am choosing right now to stop pretending that I can. That is not weakness. That is one of the most courageous things a human being can do. And when you do it, not perfectly, not permanently, but genuinely in this moment, something begins to shift. Something that has been clenched for a very long time begins slowly to open, because you were never meant to carry this alone, and the one who is strong enough to carry it has been waiting for you to let him. When you finally begin to let go, even just a little, something else begins to enter, something the world cannot manufacture, cannot sell, and cannot explain, and that is exactly what we need to talk about next. There is a kind of peace that makes no logical sense, not the peace that comes when the problems are resolved, not the peace that arrives after the difficult conversation is over, or the medical results come back clear, or the financial pressure finally lifts. That kind of peace is real, but it is conditional. It depends on circumstances behaving the way you need them to behave, and circumstances, as you know, are not always cooperative. I am talking about something different, something that exists independently of what is happening around you, a peace that can be present in the middle of the storm, not after it. The Bible calls it a peace that transcends all understanding, which means it cannot be manufactured by thinking the right thoughts. It cannot be achieved through willpower or positive self-talk or the right combination of spiritual disciplines. It is not something you produce, it is something you receive. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. That is Philippians 4, 6, and 7. Read that last phrase again, will guard your hearts and your minds. Guard, not suggest, not gently encourage, guard, like a soldier stationed at the door of your inner life with the specific assignment of protecting what is inside from what is trying to get in. But I want to be honest with you about something, because you deserve honesty more than you deserve comfort that doesn't hold up under real life. This peace does not always arrive like a flood. For most people, for most honest, faithful, genuinely seeking people, it arrives like dawn, gradually, almost imperceptibly at first. You don't notice the moment the sky begins to change. You just notice at some point that it is no longer completely dark. Maybe it starts like this. One morning you wake up and realize that for the first 3 minutes of consciousness, you weren't running through the list of things that could go wrong. You were just awake, present, breathing. And that is not a small thing. That is the peace of God beginning its work. Or maybe it's this. You face a situation that 3 months ago would have sent you into a spiral for days, and this time something inside you holds, not because the situation is less serious, but because something at the foundation is more solid than it used to be. That is not coincidence. That is the peace that transcends understanding, doing exactly what it was promised to do, guarding your heart, guarding your mind,
quietly and faithfully without requiring you to fully understand how it works. The storm may still be outside, but inside, something is finally quietly becoming still. And that stillness, as fragile as it feels at first, is the beginning of something that lasts.
There is something no one tells you when you first begin to find your way out of this kind of inner exhaustion. It is not linear. There will be days, genuinely good days, where the weight lifts and you breathe differently and you think, maybe I'm finally on the other side of this. And then there will be a night, perhaps without warning, where the old thoughts return, where the chest tightens again, where the fear you thought you had handed over comes knocking as though it never left. And in that moment, the cruelest voice will say, "See, nothing has really changed. You're back where you started. All of that was temporary. This is who you actually are." I want to tell you directly, that voice is lying. A hard night after a season of peace is not proof that the peace was fake. A moment of fear after a period of trust is not evidence that your faith failed. Healing from this kind of deep inner exhaustion is not a door you walk through once and never look back. It is a road, and roads have difficult stretches, not because you took a wrong turn, but because that is simply what roads are. Elijah, after his moment of complete collapse under that tree, didn't receive a sermon from God. He didn't receive a rebuke for his weakness. He received something far more unexpected. He received food and water and the permission to sleep. Get up and eat, for the journey is too much for you. 1 Kings 19:7. God's response to a broken prophet was not disappointment, it was nourishment. It was the quiet, practical, tender acknowledgement that the journey ahead required strength, and that the strength would have to come from somewhere other than the prophet's own reserves, because those reserves were gone. The journey was too much for him. God said so himself, not as a criticism, but as a compassionate statement of fact. Your journey may be too much for you right now too. Not because you were spiritually insufficient, not because you haven't tried hard enough, but because some roads are genuinely too long and too heavy for a person to walk alone on their own strength. And God's response to that is not to tell you to try harder. His response is the same as it was for Elijah. Rest. I will give you what you need for the next part of the road. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. That is Isaiah 40:29-31. Notice the progression: soaring, running, walking. Most people read that verse and focus on the soaring, the dramatic, triumphant image of rising above everything. But I think the most important word in that promise is the last one, walking. Not every day is a soaring day. Not every day is even a running day. Some days the victory is simply this: you walked. You got up when the weight told you to stay down. You took one step when everything in you wanted to stop. You chose for one more day to keep moving in the direction of trust instead of surrendering to the direction of fear. There is something no one tells you when you first begin to find your way out of this kind of inner exhaustion. It is not linear. There will be days, genuinely good days, where the weight lifts and you breathe differently and you think, maybe I'm finally on the other side of this. And then there will be a night, perhaps without warning, where the old thoughts return, where the chest tightens again, where the fear you thought you had handed over comes knocking as though it never left. And in that moment, the cruelest voice will say, "See, nothing has really changed. You're back where you started. All of that was temporary. This is who you actually are." I want to tell you directly, that voice is lying. A hard night after a season of peace is not proof that the peace was fake. A moment of fear after a period of trust is not evidence that your faith failed.
Healing from this kind of deep inner exhaustion is not a door you walk through once and never look back. It is a road, and roads have difficult stretches, not because you took a wrong turn, but because that is simply what roads are. Elijah, after his moment of complete collapse under that tree, didn't receive a sermon from God. He didn't receive a rebuke for his weakness. He received something far more unexpected. He received food and water and the permission to sleep. Get up and eat, for the journey is too much for you. 1 Kings 19:7. God's response to a broken prophet was not disappointment, it was nourishment. It was the quiet, practical, tender acknowledgement that the journey ahead required strength, and that the strength would have to come from somewhere other than the prophet's own reserves, because those reserves were gone. The journey was too much for him. God said so himself, not as a criticism, but as a compassionate statement of fact. Your journey may be too much for you right now too. Not because you were spiritually insufficient, not because you haven't tried hard enough, but because some roads are genuinely too long and too heavy for a person to walk alone on their own strength. And God's response to that is not to tell you to try harder. His response is the same as it was for Elijah. Rest. I will give you what you need for the next part of the road. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. That is Isaiah 40:29-31. Notice the progression: soaring, running, walking. Most people read that verse and focus on the soaring, the dramatic, triumphant image of rising above everything. But I think the most important word in that promise is the last one, walking. Not every day is a soaring day. Not every day is even a running day. Some days the victory is simply this: you walked. You got up when the weight told you to stay down. You took one step when everything in you wanted to stop. You chose for one more day to keep moving in the direction of trust instead of surrendering to the direction of fear. That is not failure. That is faith in its most honest and most durable form. God is not waiting for you to soar before He considers you faithful. He is with you on the walking days. He is with you on the days when all you managed was one step. He is with you in the process and not just at the destination. And that right there is where we've been heading all along. You came to this video carrying something. Maybe you knew exactly what it was. Maybe you couldn't name it. You just knew that something inside you needed to hear something true today. Something that didn't ask you to perform or pretend or have it all together before it would speak to you. I want you to know God saw you before you pressed play. He saw the weight you carried into this moment. He saw the nights that brought you here. He saw the version of you that is exhausted from fighting so hard for so long, mostly alone, and He did not turn away. He didn't wait for a stronger, more composed version of you to show up first. He is here for this version, the tired one, the one who is still figuring it out, the one who sometimes feels more fear than faith and still shows up anyway. That is who He came for. You are not your worst night. You are not the sum of your most anxious thoughts. You are not defined by the fear that has followed you, or the weight you have carried, or the times you felt so hollow that hope seemed like something other people got to feel. That is not who you are. You are someone God has not given up on, someone He has been pursuing with a patience and a tenderness that does not waver based on how well you are doing. You are seen, completely, specifically, without condition, not seen in spite of the struggle, but seen inside it, and you are not alone in it. You never were. When anxiety was great within me, your consolation brought me joy.
That is Psalm 94:19, and it was written by someone who knew what great anxiety felt like. Not mild discomfort, not occasional worry, but great anxiety, the kind that fills everything, the kind that crowds out every other feeling, the kind that makes joy seem like a distant memory from someone else's life. And yet consolation came, joy came, not because the circumstances became easy, but because God drew close in the middle of what was hard. He will do the same for you. So here is what I want to leave you with, not as an instruction, but as a truth you can carry with you when you leave this place. The storm may not be over yet. The thoughts may still come. The nights may still be hard. There may still be mornings when the weight is the first thing you feel before you fully opened your eyes. But Jesus is still in the boat. He was there at the beginning of this. He is here right now, and he will be there tomorrow. In the part of tomorrow you are most afraid of, in the outcome you cannot control, in the future you have been exhausting yourself trying to predict and manage and survive. He is already there, and he is not afraid of what he sees. You don't have to have it all resolved to receive peace. You don't have to feel strong to be held. You don't have to stop being afraid before God will come close. You just have to let him, right now,